It's Advent season. Advent means different things to different people. At its most basic, it's the countdown to Christmas. People choose to mark this countdown in different ways, from Advent candles to chocolate Advent calendars to one filled with makeup and books and whatever else you can think to put in 24 empty boxes. I've even seen that Dior has an $11,000 Advent calendar. Like, for $11,000, that calendar needs to be able to predict the second coming of Christ. But believe it or not, Advent isn't about the chocolates or the makeup or whatever is worth $11,000 in the Dior calendar. It's about remembering the first arrival of Jesus and preparing for his second coming. On the Bible Project's Guide to Advent, they say, Advent embraces the way of Jesus and encourages hopeful waiting, courageous peacemaking, resilient joy, and self-giving love in our still suffering world. So I wanted to mark Advent a little differently than I normally do and spend the next 4 weeks reflecting back on the events leading up to Jesus' first coming and how it's all still relevant in our still suffering world today. Advent is usually celebrated in the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas and typically begins on the last Sunday in November, which this year is November 30th. Each week has a different theme. The order changes depending on church tradition, but it is often week 1, hope, week 2, peace, week 3, joy, week 4, love. I had hoped to get this video out before the first Sunday of Advent, but unfortunately life got in the way, so this is coming out just after. Each week I'm going to illustrate a different part of the nativity story with my own artistic twist. For week 1, hope, I want to focus on Mary and the hope of the baby growing inside her, and what that meant not only for Mary and Joseph, but for the rest of the world. Most scholars agree that Mary was between the ages of 14 to 19, and Joseph was likely in his mid to late 20s of the time of Jesus' birth. Marital customs were different in 1st century Palestine than they are in 21st century America, and this kind of age gap was normal. A man had to be established enough to show he could look after a wife, while the wife went from the protection of her father's house to her husband's. Thankfully, in many ways, for many people, this has changed. But I want to explore what this would look like for Mary and Joseph in modern times. It's more likely that they would be of a similar age, and in my imagination, they are young, 2 teenagers trying to make sense of this unplanned pregnancy. Joseph doesn't know who got Mary pregnant, but he knows it wasn't him. Does he trust her when she says the baby is God's? He got a visit from an angel that seemed to confirm all Mary was telling him, but now he's wondering if that was all a dream. Still, he loves Mary and she's never lied to him before, especially not about something so big, so why would she start now? And there are all these prophecies. The nativity story has inspired hundreds, probably thousands of pieces of art over the years, and in my research I found this one piece depicting Mary and Joseph making their way to Bethlehem. I was struck by how distant they looked from each other and how they both seemed completely lost in their own thoughts. Walking and using a donkey were the humblest way to travel long distances in 1st century Palestine, so I thought about what the humblest way to travel now is, and I went with a Greyhound bus. They're sitting on the bus. Mary is lost in her thoughts. Joseph is lost in his. They'll eventually find their way back to each other. But a pregnancy under ideal circumstances can be very stressful and a strain on a relationship. And these are not the most ideal of circumstances. There is so much uncertainty ahead of them. Even though Joseph has finished his carpentry apprenticeship and is about to be hired in a very profitable business, he knows it's not the most lucrative trade. Will he make enough to support his young family? And Mary knows what people say behind her back, what they think. After all, she is just a child. Will she be enough for this young baby? Mary and Joseph had to hope in something bigger than themselves in order to endure individually and as a couple. They also had to wait. They had to wait the 9 months of pregnancy to see this baby. Joseph waited to divorce Mary. Thankfully he did. He got the visit from an angel. There was a lot of expectant waiting in their future, waiting for their hope in God, in each other, and in this baby to be fulfilled. We can't rely on a hope based on things, because when those things disappear, that hope dies along with them. We need our hope to be rooted in something unchanging, on an eternal promise of restoration from someone who has proven themselves time and time again. The word for hope used in the Bible can also be translated as wait. Hope is waiting expectantly for promises to be fulfilled, like when you plant seeds and hope in the harvest, or when a pregnant mother hopes in the safe delivery of her child. Advent is about exploring what it means to hope in something everlasting, and to hope in the restoration of all that is good, and this present suffering will pass away. Advent asks us, what does it look like to hope in God? Thank you so much for joining me for this drawing session this week. I didn't get around to getting Joseph on the piece. I wanted to get Mary and Joseph, but it seemed that the pencil wanted to focus on Joseph for this week. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss next week when we talk and draw about peace. I also love hearing from you and seeing what you have to say in the comments. So let me know in the comments below how you cling to hope in difficult times and what you are hoping most for in this Advent season. Until next time, goodbye.